안녕하세요.
The door of the small restaurant closed silently behind Suri. Taejun watched her closely, his heart pounding. He had never expected her to show up there, in a place so different from the world they once shared. The meeting was unexpected, but they both knew they could no longer run from what they felt. "I never imagined seeing you here," Suri said, her voice soft but filled with meaning. Taejun gave a faint smile, wiping his hands on his apron before taking a step forward. "This is who I am. It always has been. I spent so much time trying to hide, pretending to be something I'm not. But now, I don't think I want to hide anymore." She nodded, studying him with penetrating eyes. "I've spent these past days thinking about what everything between us meant, about how you made me believe in something that wasn't real, but at the same time, made me feel something I've never felt before." Taejun lowered his gaze, feeling the weight of his own choices. "I never wanted to hurt you, Suri. I only wanted a chance. But I understand if you can't forgive me." She took a deep breath, her fingers tracing the edge of the nearest table. "It's not that simple. I don't know if I can trust you again, but I also know that I can't ignore what I feel." Silence hung between them, tense, laden with unspoken emotions. Then, Taejun pulled a small piece of paper from his pocket and slid it toward her. "A ticket?" Suri asked, frowning. "A train ticket. Tomorrow morning. Away from here. To start over. Without lies, without pressure. I don't know what decision you'll make, but if there's even the slightest chance that you'll give me a new beginning, I'll be waiting at that station." Suri held the ticket between her fingers. The decision was entirely in her hands now. It was no longer about Taejun's lie, nor the world of appearances they had lived in. It was about what they truly wanted for the future. That night, lying in bed, she stared at the ticket for long minutes. Her heart weighed with indecision. Could she trust Taejun again? Could she let go of everything and follow what her heart was telling her? The next morning, the train was set to leave on time. Taejun stood on the platform, his eyes fixed on the station entrance. He knew there was a chance he'd be standing there alone. But he also knew that if she appeared, it would mark the beginning of something real. Time passed slowly. The minutes felt like an eternity. Passengers came and went, while he remained there, gripping his own ticket with trembling hands. Then, at the last moment, among the crowd boarding the train, he saw her. Suri. She was there, dressed simply, without the luxurious adornments of before. Her eyes reflected a mix of fear and hope. Taejun held his breath. No words were needed. Just that moment, that meeting, said everything. She walked up to him and stopped by his side. "Ready to leave?" she asked, a faint smile on her lips. He smiled back, feeling that, for the first time, he didn't need to pretend to be someone else. "With you? Always." And together, they boarded the train toward the unknown, certain that no matter the destination they had chosen each other. The light rain drizzled over Seoul that chilly spring night. Neon lights reflected in the puddles, painting the city in vibrant yet melancholic hues. Young Hwan adjusted the collar of his coat, feeling the weight of another exhausting day at work. He walked unhurriedly along the crowded sidewalk, the muffled sound of footsteps blending with the murmuring of passers-by. He expected nothing different from this night until a familiar glimpse caught his attention. On the other side of the window of a sophisticated cafe, sitting alone with a cup of tea in her hands, was Ye-jin. Time seemed to compress and expand simultaneously. He stopped in the middle of the sidewalk, ignoring the shove of a hurried pedestrian. His heart skipped a beat, then resumed at a rapid pace. It had been years since he had last seen Ye-jin, but time had done nothing to erase the memories. The same serene gaze, the same long, flawless hair. Yet there was something different. In her expression, a shadow of sadness he had never seen before. An irrational impulse pushed him to enter, but he hesitated. Was it merely a coincidence? Or was fate playing another cruel trick on them? Ye-jin, on the other hand, had also seen him through the glass. Her fingers tensed slightly around the cup, but her expression remained unchanged. A mix of surprise and pain flickered in her eyes, though she quickly composed herself. as if she had been caught off guard by an unwelcome memory. It didn't take long for the cafe door to open, the soft chime of the bell announcing Young Hwan's entrance, the warm scent of coffee mixed with the sophisticated perfume she wore as he approached, hesitant yet determined. He had no plan, only the unsettling certainty that he couldn't let her disappear again without at least exchanging a few words. "It's been a while, Ye-jin," he said, his deep voice careful. She lifted her gaze, studying him for a moment before responding. "Not that long. It seems fate enjoys repeating certain stories." A faint smile tugged at his lips, but there was no humor in it, only a silent acknowledgement of the past they shared. He pulled out a chair and sat down without asking for permission. Ye-jin did not protest. "I didn't expect to see you here," he admitted, watching her closely. "I didn't expect it either. But maybe this meeting isn't as unexpected as you think." Young Hwan frowned. There was a weight hidden in her words, a subtext he couldn't decipher right away. His chest tightened, a foreboding sensation telling him that this reunion was not a mere coincidence. Something was about to surface, something that would change everything between them. An uncomfortable silence settled between them. He observed how she toyed with the handle of her cup, her eyes fixed on the steaming liquid inside. "You look well," he ventured, trying to break the tension. She let out a quiet laugh, devoid of any real joy. "And you sound surprised. But don't be mistaken, Young Hwan. Not everything that looks fine actually is." He parted his lips to ask more, but she didn't give him the chance. "And you? What have you been doing all these years?" she asked, as if steering the conversation towards safer ground. He hesitated. Should he talk about his rising career, the struggles and sacrifices, or admit that, despite all he had achieved, he had never truly been able to forget the love they once had? Before he could answer, she tilted her head slightly, as if reassessing him under a different light. "You know, Young Hwan, maybe this conversation needs more than just a cup of coffee. How about a walk to refresh our memories?" she suggested, standing up. He watched as she picked up her coat and placed a few bills on the table. Without another word, she walked toward the door, leaving him with a choice: follow her, or let her walk away once again. Young Hwan's routine continued as usual, but his world was far from being in order. He tried to convince himself that his reunion with Ye-jin meant nothing, that her words shouldn't have affected him, but the truth was different. In the days that followed, his mind drifted back to the past more times than he would have liked. The wounds he thought had healed were merely dormant. Meanwhile, Ye-jin remained flawless in front of everyone. Her serene expression gave nothing away about the turmoil inside her. To the world, she was still the refined and distant heiress, whose life revolved around business commitments and social events. But she couldn't fool herself. Young Hwan's presence unsettled her, and each unexpected encounter with him made her realize just how far she was from truly moving on. Fate, however, seemed determined to play with them. Coincidence or not, their lives continued to intertwine in subtle and inevitable ways. A charity event, hosted by Ye-jin's family, brought them face to face once again. Amidst champagne glasses and polished smiles, they found themselves surrounded by watchful eyes and discreet whispers. "I wasn't expecting to see you here," Ye-jin said, keeping her expression neutral. Young Hwan smiled, but his eyes held a mixture of challenge and sadness. "Neither was I, but it seems our lives keep crossing paths, don't you think?" She tightened her grip on her glass. The weight of the past was there, invisible but present. "I simply do what needs to be done. Some things never change," she replied, trying to sound indifferent. He studied her for a moment before responding, his voice low but precise. "You never change either, Ye-jin, always hiding what you truly feel." Her gaze faltered for a brief second, but she quickly regained composure. "And you, Young Hwan? Do you still believe you can decipher every part of me?" Before he could answer, a guest approached, forcing Ye-jin to shift her attention. The moment dissolved, but the tension remained. This game was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. Young Hwan spent the rest of the night watching Ye-jin from a distance. Between superficial conversations and forced laughter, he observed how she moved through the grand hallways impeccable, always untouchable. But in those brief moments when their eyes met, there was something there, something that neither the years, nor the lies, nor time itself had been able to erase. As the night came to an end, Ye-jin retreated to the balcony, inhaling the crisp night air. It didn't take long for Young-hwan to find her there, away from the prying eyes. "What do you want, Young-hwan?" she asked without turning around. "To know the truth," he answered without hesitation. She let out a long, weary sigh. The wind tousled her hair, but she remained steady. "The truth won't change anything. Not the past, not the present." He took a step closer, his voice softer now. "Maybe not, but maybe it will help us move forward." Ye-jin closed her eyes for a moment, weighing his words. Finally, she turned to face him. "If I tell you everything, are you ready to hear it?" The silence between them stretched, dense and heavy with meaning. Young-hwan's answer could change everything. Young-hwan's routine continued as usual, but his world was far from being in order. He tried to convince himself that his reunion with Ye-jin meant nothing, that her words shouldn't have affected him, but the truth was different. In the days that followed, his mind drifted back to the past more times than he would have liked. The wounds he thought had healed were merely dormant. Meanwhile, Ye-jin remained flawless in front of everyone. Her serene expression gave nothing away about the turmoil inside her. To the world, she was still the refined and distant heiress, whose life revolved around business commitments and social events. But she couldn't fool herself. Young-hwan's presence unsettled her, and each unexpected encounter with him made her realize just how far she was from truly moving on. Fate, however, seemed determined to play with them. Coincidence or not, their lives continued to intertwine in subtle and inevitable ways. A charity event hosted by Ye-jin's family brought them face to face once again. Amidst champagne glasses and polished smiles, they found themselves surrounded by watchful eyes and discreet whispers. "I wasn't expecting to see you here," Ye-jin said, keeping her expression neutral. Young-hwan smiled, but his eyes held a mixture of challenge and sadness. "Neither was I, but it seems our lives keep crossing paths, don't you think?" She tightened her grip on her glass. The weight of the past was there, invisible but present. "I simply do what needs to be done. Some things never change," she replied, trying to sound indifferent. He studied her for a moment before responding, his voice low but precise. "You never change either, Ye-jin, always hiding what you truly feel." Her gaze faltered for a brief second, but she quickly regained composure. "And you, Young-hwan, do you still believe you can decipher every part of me?" Before he could answer, a guest approached, forcing Ye-jin to shift her attention. The moment dissolved, but the tension remained. This game was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. Young-hwan spent the rest of the night watching Ye-jin from a distance. Between superficial conversations and forced laughter, he observed how she moved through the grand hall, always impeccable, always untouchable. But in those brief moments when their eyes met, there was something there. Something that neither the years, nor the lies, nor time itself had been able to erase. As the night came to an end, Ye-jin retreated to the balcony, inhaling the crisp night air. It didn't take long for Young-hwan to find her there, away from the prying eyes. "What do you want, Young-hwan?" she asked without turning around. "To know the truth," he answered without hesitation. She let out a long, weary sigh. The wind tousled her hair, but she remained steady. "The truth won't change anything. Not the past, not the present." He took a step closer, his voice softer now. "Maybe not, but maybe it will help us move forward." Ye-jin closed her eyes for a moment, weighing his words. Finally, she turned to face him. "If I tell you everything, are you ready to hear it?" The silence between them stretched, dense and heavy with meaning. Young-hwan's answer could change everything. The night was cold, and the moon hung over Seoul like a solitary beacon in the sky. Ye-jin stood on the balcony, feeling the icy wind cut through her skin as Young-hwan approached. The silence between them was almost deafening, an invisible barrier concealing the emotions they both struggled to suppress. "If I tell you everything, are you ready to hear it?" Ye-jin asked, her voice laden with hesitation. Young-hwan nodded slowly, his gaze locked onto hers. He knew that whatever she was about to say would change everything that remained between them. "I wasn't the one who chose to walk away," Ye-jin began, averting her eyes. "My parents found out about us. To them, you were never enough. You didn't belong in their world. and they were willing to do anything to keep us apart. Yunghwan felt a tightness in his chest. He had always suspected, but hearing it directly from Ye Jin made it painfully real. I tried to resist, Yunghwan, but they threatened to ruin your career, your life. My father had enough power to destroy you, and I couldn't let that happen. Silence stretched between them. Yunghwan took a deep breath, absorbing each word. His anger wasn't directed at Ye Jin, but at the cruel reality that had torn them apart. Why didn't you ever tell me? His voice was low, full of pain. Because I knew you would fight, and if you fought, you would lose everything. I chose to be the villain so you could move on, without carrying this burden. Yunghwan closed his eyes for a moment, processing the truth unraveling before him. The secret that had haunted him for years was finally out, and with it, the pain and the realization that Ye Jin had never abandoned him out of a lack of love. She had loved him so much that she chose to suffer alone. Ye Jin let out a shaky sigh and turned to leave, but Yunghwan gently caught her wrist. Now that I know, do you really think I can just move on? He asked, his voice thick with emotion. She didn't answer. Her eyes shimmered, on the verge of overflowing. The wind blew around them, carrying away the remnants of past lies. But the future, that still remained uncertain. Ye Jin felt her hands tremble. Finally, with a voice barely holding together, she said, I spent all these years trying to forget, trying to convince myself that I did the right thing. But now, seeing you here, I realize that maybe I made the biggest mistake of my life. Yunghwan loosened his grip around her wrist, giving Ye Jin the chance to step away. But she didn't. I never stopped loving you, she confessed, her voice breaking. Yunghwan's eyes widened slightly. His heart pounded as if struggling to absorb every word. Then why don't we try again, he asked, waiting, yearning for a sliver of hope. Ye Jin gave him a sad smile. Because the past still exists, and some scars never fully fade. They stood there, side by side, saying nothing more. Time seemed to have stopped, leaving only the sound of their beating hearts echoing into the night. The sun timidly rose on the horizon, bathing Seoul in shades of gold and amber. Ye Jin sat on a park bench, watching the leaves being carried away by the wind. Her mind was distant, caught between the past and the present. She had told Yunghwan the truth, yet something between them still felt unfinished. On the other side of the city, Yunghwan stared at his reflection in the mirror of his small apartment. His heart pounded at an uneven rhythm, and his conversation with Ye Jin replayed over and over in his mind. Now that he knew the truth, could he really just let her go? Or was it finally his turn to fight for them? Fate, however, seemed to have made the choice for them. An unexpected meeting between their companies put them face to face once again. In the conference room, their eyes met, filled with unspoken words. The corporate setting demanded professionalism, but the intensity between them was undeniable. What a coincidence to meet here again, Ye Jin said, her voice steady, though her gaze faltered. Yunghwan held her gaze, a small smile forming. Maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe fate is trying to tell us something. She looked away for a moment, feeling the weight of his words. Could she trust fate? Could she trust him? The formal meeting proceeded, but when the others began to disperse, Yunghwan remained. Ye Jin knew he wouldn't let her leave without a conversation. You told me that some scars never truly fade, he said softly. But I also know that some wounds can heal, if only we give them a chance. She clenched her hands on the table, feeling the tension in the air. Was it foolish to believe in, or was it even more foolish to ignore what she felt? Yunghwan, her voice wavered slightly. He took a step closer, but stopped, keeping a respectful distance. I never stopped loving you, Ye Jin, and if there's even the slightest chance, I want to try again. His words hung in the air, heavy yet filled with hope. Ye Jin's heart pounded against her chest. Fate had brought them together once more, but it was up to her to decide which path to take. Silence stretched between them before Ye Jin finally rose from her chair and walked to the large window of the conference room. The cityscape outside seemed wider than ever, mirroring the vast uncertainty inside her. I don't know if I can, she whispered, hugging herself. I spent years building walls around me, trying to believe that you belonged in my past. Yunghwan stepped forward slowly, stopping beside her. And did it work? He asked. his voice low and filled with emotion. Ye Jin turned to look at him, her eyes shimmering with restrained feelings. No, she admitted. It never did. Jung Hwan let out a quiet breath, resisting the urge to reach for her. This wasn't a moment to force a decision, it was a moment to let Ye Jin decide for herself. Then, why don't we try again? He pressed. I don't want to lose you again. Ye Jin closed her eyes briefly, feeling the weight of that choice. The cold breeze drifting in from the open window carried whispers of the past and the promise of an uncertain future. She opened her eyes and met Jung Hwan's gaze, finally ready to decide.
Oh, the winter's frost may bite, but your warmth will make